When I read Psalm 19:13 today, I no longer hear only a prayer. I hear an older David looking back on one of the darkest seasons of his life. I imagine him remembering Bathsheba, not simply the adultery, not simply Uriah's death, but everything that happened before those moments. Because those sins did not begin on the rooftop. They began much earlier. One quiet choice at a time. One small compromise at a time. One moment of trusting his own desires more than God's heart. David did not wake up in one morning planning to commit adultery. He did not decide in advance to arrange a murder. No, his heart drifted long before his actions did. That is the frightening part. Outwardly, he was still the king. He still ruled Israel. He still carried out his responsibilities. Life looked normal, but inwardly, something had slowly gone silent. The intimacy he once enjoyed with God had become distant. His heart had become divided. Little by little, his own desires began occupying the throne that belonged to God. Then Nathan came. He didn't begin by accusing David. He just told a story about a rich man and a poor man's little lamb. David listened, and his heart burned with righteous anger. He immediately recognized the injustice. Then Nathan spoke the words that shattered the silence. You are that man. I don't think David's greatest shock was discovering that he had sinned. Deep down, he already knew. I think his greatest shock was realizing how far his heart had drifted without him noticing. He had become the very man he would once have judged. The shepherd had become like the wolf. That moment awakened him, not merely to his actions, but to his heart. And perhaps that is why Psalm 19:13 moves me so deeply. David is no longer praying as a young man confident in his own strength. He is praying as someone who has learned the painful cost of drifting. He now knows something he didn't know before. He cannot keep himself, if left to himself. Even a man after God's own heart can slowly lose his way. So he prays, "Keep back your servant also from presumptuous sins." In other words, Lord, keep me, because I cannot keep myself. That prayer is no longer about avoiding mistakes. It is about guarding communion. Then David adds, "Let them not have dominion over me." He understands something only experience could teach him. Sin rarely begins with rebellion. It begins when desire quietly takes the throne. When I trust my own way a little more than God's. When I believe something else will satisfy me more than His presence. Left unchecked, that desire slowly becomes a master. David had lived that story. He never wanted to live it again, and neither do I. What touches me most is not David's failure. It is his wisdom, because his failure has taught him to return quickly, not to hide, not to justify, not to pretend everything was fine, but to run back to the God whose heart had never stopped pursuing him. David discovered that the greatest danger was never the sin itself. The greatest danger was remaining far from God after the sin. That is why this verse has become my prayer. Not, "Lord, make me strong enough," but, "Lord, keep me close enough," because the closer I remain to His heart, the less attractive my own way becomes. And if I ever begin to drift, may I remember David. May I remember Nathan's story. May I remember that God does not expose my heart to shame me. He exposes it to bring me home. So now, when I read Psalm 19:13, I no longer hear only David's voice. I hear the voice of a man who has walked through failure, been restored by grace, and now lovingly warns every generation after him. Don't wait as long as I did. When your heart begins to drift, return quickly. Ask the Lord to keep you. He is far better at keeping your heart than you are. That, to me, is the wisdom of an older David, a shepherd king, who has learned that the safest place was never his own resolve, but the faithful hands of God, who has never stopped calling him home.